and we're going to introduce our fantastic panelists. Kale, whenever you're ready. Let's see.
Yeah, who do you want to start with?
You decide, Kale. Go for it.
Oh, it's a surprise. Huh?
Not me.
Mickey's
start with.
Hey, everybody. I'm Diana Brown from San Francisco, California. It's a pleasure to be here. I can do a little dance while you continue to spotlight me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Cole, Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Sean Landry. I live in Los Angeles, and I do a lot of improv. I'm 56 years old.
Hello there, I'm Robert Lowe. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I come to this group as a 74-year-old, and one of my very first improvisers is a great man who was 84 at that time. He would be what's 84 plus 40? So he'd be 125 now or something like that.
Hi, I'm Judy. I'm from Bangor, Maine. I started improvising 5 or 6 years ago with CT Improv when I was in my mid-50s, so I'm 60 now. And this is a great group of people.
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Horner. I'm from just outside of Philadelphia, PA. Hi, Sean. I'm super glad to be here. There's a lot of lovely faces, a lot of lovely people, and I can't wait to talk about stuff.
Oh, hi. I'm Sheila Goldsmith in Bellingham, Washington with Improv Playworks. Been doing improv, teaching, etc. for a long time, and I'm old. And I'm with Rick. I can't wait to talk about stuff.
Not old, vintage.
Oh, vintage, seasoned.
Vintage, yes.
Hi, my name's Jeff Michalski, and I've been improvising since 1974. I'm 68 years old, so I became, at some point, somebody informed me I was a senior. I've been improvising pretty much weekly, sometimes daily, since 1974. So I've opened up a number of theaters. I've worked with seniors, a thing called Mob Rule, and now I am a senior, but I started a few years ago running a workshops for seniors. And that's kind of my background, is opening theaters for people to play. Me too.
Hi, I'm Nikki Manting, and I am so happy to be here. I love all of these people on this panel. I'm really excited to feature them all because they've somehow been involved with Vintage Improv Festival, and I am very vintage. So look forward to hearing.
Kale, did we get everybody?
I think so.
Awesome. My name is Carla Dingle. I also am vintage. I have had so much fun working with the vintage community and jumping into my 50s. It was just a great eye-opening experience to what an incredible community Vintage Improv has become. And I know I reached out to Mickey specifically to find the right people to talk about what it's like to improvise over the age of 50. And I know Mickey disappeared. But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's like I'm afraid my power is going to go out. My computer just made a funny noise. So if I disappear, I'll come back.
All right, fantastic. Well, do you want to get everyone started with the first topic you wanted to talk about?
Well, so I would like just briefly, like there's people with some really what they're doing right now would be really interesting to know. So divide the question into two parts. What is it that you're doing right now as a vintage improviser? And maybe we'll do that one first and then come back with the other question.
Awesome. Great. So just we can just go ahead and raise your hand if you want to talk, and then we'll go ahead and get you spotlight. I think I saw Rick's hand first, so Rick, go ahead, start us off.
Hey, so I'll talk about what I have been doing lately. So when it became clear that we weren't going to be able to be in person together, which was in the early part of last year, almost a year ago, as everybody knows. My instinct was not to first think to go online and start to try to do things online, because like I think a lot of other people, felt like that was a completely different experience to be in a Zoom session or in a Zoom meeting, and that there was no such thing as doing improv online. I think we just didn't, a lot of people just didn't know what that was. And I also went through a second phase, which was trying to do it unsuccessfully and feeling like, this isn't the same thing as being in person, and therefore I can, sort of write it off. But when I actually thought about it, and I bet this is the experience of a lot of people, not only here in this room, but people that are watching it, I discovered that I'm going to be doing this anyway. Like, I'm going to be walking around my house, making up songs and doing characters and all that kind of stuff. So figuring out how to make it work on Zoom was a little bit like the same process as when I first started doing improv. It didn't work the way I thought it was going to work when I first started doing it, and I made discoveries, and things weren't exactly what I thought they were going to be pretty much ever. So the getting into it part became the getting into it part in a whole new way. And I think once I realized that, I found some joy in the idea of, oh, this is something that I kind of know how to do, that I kind of mostly don't know how to do, and kind of, finding the joy of, like, how do you go from there?
Awesome, thanks. I think did I see Jeff's hand?
Yeah.
Head over here to Jeff. We're going to get you spotlighted. Sorry, our computer's running a little slow, but we're going to get you there. Hold on one second.
Hi. All right. So I own a partners in a club called the Fanatic Salon in Culver City, and we were regularly producing shows. We also, the original Upfront Comedy was ours in Santa Monica, and that's where Ryan played with us too. And so I've opened a bunch of clubs, but I continue to do that, and we produce all kinds of stuff. We produce improvisation, we produce comedy, we have a music show called Top Tune. Basically, I create homes for people to come back and perform whenever. We at one club I owned, the Upfront Comedy, had the original Second City Company from 1960 on opening night. And this is in the 90s. So we had Severn Darden, Mina Kolb, and all these people that by that time were seniors, I guess. And as far as what I'm doing now is I'm doing a play with Dan Castellaneta, who's Homer Simpson. We're shooting the end of it. We're shooting it. So they're shooting the end of it tomorrow. And I did another show with him. We have a writer's workshop that we do together with all kinds of people that you may call luminaries and stuff. And we did a show called Desperate Measures. So I've been doing a lot of that. We continue doing our workshops where we improvise on Sundays, or not right now, but because I have another commitment with vintage comedy and vintage improv. And and I've been doing workshops in, like Canada online and Poland online, and wherever anybody will have me, and learning how to do shows through them. So seeing what produced shows look like. Monica Azdarska, I did an interview with, and she showed me some of the stuff that she has with her backgrounds and stuff like that. And so I'm learning that and going to do a lot of shows. I'm going to do a lot of shows, and then, the COVID thing will be over and I'll be stuck with all these online shows that I have to do. So
Awesome. Looks like Sean's going next.
All righty then. Someone joked with me not too long ago to me, Sean, were you actually waiting for a pandemic? You see, pretty much since I started We Be Negroes, which was the ensemble that I started in Chicago, the first African-American sketch comedy improv ensemble, yada, yada. We've been taping our shows pretty much since we started. Matter of fact, one of the first shows I literally just put up was from 1989, called Space and Exploration of What's Between Us, before we became We Be Negroes. We were the underground theater conspiracy in Chicago. I literally just put that up on Twitch because I had it in a hard drive. I wasn't expecting a pandemic. Nobody likes a pandemic. I hate being in the house and turning this room into my living room, dining room, into a studio filled with a Canon camera there, the camera right here, 2 cameras over here, full on lights, and a backdrop that is actually not a background. That is actually where my coffee hutch is. I wasn't expecting it, but I was very comfortable going to it. I'm also very lucky to have a 63-year-old man who has been performing with me in this house since pretty much 1986. So it was like a duck to water when it came to being on Zoom and learning and knowing the technology behind that. A lot of people don't have what I have. I'm really, really blessed. But when it comes to being on camera and looking at this camera instead of looking here at this camera, I came to this pretty fast. I enjoy doing Zoom improv. I love the new bingo card that's out, which has everyone seen the bingo card? It's lovely. Your sound's not on. Your background is also your shirt and half your head. It's learning the technology of what we do and what we love. So the seniors is now on Internet Movie Database because we are now in season 2. I asked my friends to improvise at 5 o'clock LA time. I ask all of you if you would like to do this with myself and Hans to please do so. Michalski, I'm looking at you. And it's fun to do. And it will change. We'll be back in brick and mortar, and I'll be back at the Pack in our 50-seat theater that smells like lovely cheese and feet. And it will be wonderful. And that's all I have to say about that.
Awesome. Awesome. Who would like to share next? Carolyn.
Sure. I've been doing improv for about 8 or 9 years, and I started it after I retired. So I use that when I teach people to just encourage them that it's not something just for 20-year-olds, which is sort of what the prevailing feeling is about improv. And I've been enjoying just performing and started a few troupes to do the JTS Brown, and we began to get into international festivals. And then, of course, as everybody knows, boom, everything stopped. And at the point that everything stopped, I had been producing my first show, which is called Wildcard Improv. And I made sure that in every cast, which was a cast of 9 people, that there was as much inclusion as I could get. And it was really pretty representative of many groups. I was really proud of it. It was going successfully. It packed the house, and boom, it stopped. So I went into a real depression. I also had surgery at the time, which didn't help at all. And everything stopped. And I thought, oh my God, a pandemic, this is going to take a while. I have a medical background a little bit to know that this wasn't going to be something that just came and went quickly. So I got really depressed thinking, my God, my lifeblood has been cut off from me. And what am I going to do now? And then I started peeking in on a few of the clubs that started, the nursery, vintage, a few of the groups that came my way, I guess through email or I don't know how, searching online desperately. And I began signing up and doing some classes as a student. I decided, whoa, let's not talk about teaching here. I'll be a student and just keep my student part going. And what I discovered was that it was a little clunky at first. Everybody was sort of saying, oh, excuse me, I don't know quite how to do this. It's my first time. And you got that a lot in the first month or so. And then people took off. It was this explosion that I experienced where people were all of a sudden finding what works. And doing things and setting up ensembles and doing performances, and it was magic. And what it said to me was that this improv community, and now it's a global community, it's not just your local with occasional festivals, it's a global community, that there's something in its spirit and its resilience that, given this big blow, just something has mushroomed that I don't think is going to go away. And for me, it's been a lifeblood for me. And I've taught one class, and maybe that's all I'll do for now. But it's been, and that class was very enjoyable. But what I have learned as a student is that those 10,000 steps that you need to get, you can get a lot of them on Zoom and really quickly. And I noticed how my skill level as a performer was like, oh, that piece I struggled with, I think I got that now. And it's amazing. You can't get everything, but boy, can you build your skills if you get into classes, and probably you have to pick the right classes for your match. But you almost can't lose. There's nothing that you can lose. So I'm looking forward to things opening up. I hope our very local theater here does open up. I have my doubts. And things will go forward. And I particularly think that, wintertime, well, I'm saying this, and I know some people in the Northeast have cold weather, but we're in the South, we're kind of pretty wimpy about cold weather. That in the wintertime, when I don't feel like getting in a car and going out, I have Zoom. And I think there'll be a lot of activity on Zoom during winter months because, hey, it's so much easier. So we'll have both. We'll have some combination of both. Anyway, I look forward to the pandemic being over. I'm scheduled for my second vaccine shot, but I know that.
That's so exciting. I'm in 1C because I'm still too young with no underlying conditions. I wish I was older at this point.
That was my card. Yes, that got me in. But anyway, so I think we have a lot to look forward to, and Zoom is wonderful. And there's other things developing like Pineapple that may take the place of Zoom and be much more applicable to improvisers. And look at that spirit that people get in there and say, well, this Zoom thing doesn't work very well for me, for improv, and then create something that fits more. It's wonderful.
Chris Griswold was a genius in creating Pineapple. I'd just like to shout out to him on that.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of hands, so we'll go to Sheila next, and then we'll get Judy after that. We'll make sure we get everyone.
Hi, Sheila Goldsmith here. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Goldsmith in Bellingham with Improv Playworks. I forget how much I should or shouldn't say about myself. I have been teaching, training, and doing improv for 25 some odd years, and I did build a theater in Bellingham, which is currently closed. But my passion has always been the teaching and the training piece of it. And I'm inspired by and completely agree with all of the kinds of things that Carolyn has been saying in terms of for me, the door of my of my studio closed on March 13th, and I thought it would be the end of the world. But within 1 week, it's like, let's try this thing called Zoom, which I hadn't heard of. And basically, as an improviser and a teacher, I've been challenged to recreate, reinvent, and see how I can create engagement and connection and inspiration with Zoom. And at first, I had no high hopes, and I thought we would just be treading water to stay together for a little while. And I soon discovered, wait a minute. And we have succeeded. You know, there is a kind of engagement and connection that happens. The magic still happens. And I had to use all of my skills as an improviser to adapt and to stay open to, okay, this is the offer right here. How can we make something from it? And boy, has it exploded. And the classes that I do, they just get better and better and yummier. And I love that we've gotten to meet people all over the world, or even in other parts of the country, like Carolyn and Mickey. I have been teaching a group. Whoops. I've been teaching a group. Hello. Am I done?
No, you're still there.
You're still there.
I'm seeing something else on my screen. Anyway, I teach seniors that I've been teaching for about 9 years. And some of are well up into their 90s. And I thought we'll never be able to do this with them. But no, they all get on Zoom. They have their computers, their laptops. How come I'm just seeing a big green sign? I can't see myself or anybody else. It's weird.
Do you have it on pen by chance?
No,
Because I see you.
Now I see you, but I don't see myself.
We see you, Sheila.
Okay.
We see you.
So it's amazing. Because I know Mickey wanted us to talk about what's it like to be, 50 or above, which I'm well above. I'm 68, and how it is doing improv with my seniors in their 80s and 90s. And it's amazing. And I started teaching them a decade ago when someone at the senior residence said, have you ever done improv with seniors? And I said, no. She said, would you be willing to try? And I said, yes. And it's been one of the most rewarding, amazing experiences of my life. I love them dearly. They're extremely talented improvisers. We could bring them on right now and we could all do improv together. It's not like, oh, good, how nice, you're doing this nice thing for these old people. They're smart. They are full of stories and life. And guess what? Yes. They don't have those big, tough egos that some people that are younger have. Yes. They're willing to surrender. They're willing to play and make their partner look good. They are delighted. And they recognize deeper elements of improv right off the bat, because I, from the get-go, didn't teach improv to train people to get on the stage and be funny. No. I early on discovered the beauty and the magic of connection and listening and inspiring, and how it transforms people. And I started off the shyest person on the planet, and my teachers at Bay Area Theater Sports, where I started, could confirm that. My first teacher ever was Rebecca Stockley. Love her to bits. So I know what it's like to be shy and introverted. And I have a huge background in counseling and psychology. And I pretty quickly thought, this is transformative. This is better than group therapy. And when I used to talk to Keith about it, I'd say, this is like therapy. He said, yes, but we don't tell them that. So I get the great pleasure of watching. And oh, by the way, I bring in my seniors to classes with my younger students who then, just out of free choice, want to come and be in class with my senior group because they're so lovely and there's so much to be learned. And I've learned so much about what it's like, aging and the process. And I remember sitting, I'll shut up, in one of my first classes with the seniors. And I thought, because I hadn't had the exposure to a lot of really old seniors in my life at that point, I thought, these people, we're not dead yet. These people are alive and inspired, and they want to play characters and put on hats and wigs. So it's been a gift in my life to teach people of all ages and to bring them together in intergenerational classes. And I am thrilled, as Carolyn was saying, that we have Zoom. It's magic. It's our gift. It's the silver lining. And I agree. I think a hybrid will always exist. Same thing said. I love to be in a room and hug all my people. But yeah, I think it's pretty amazing what we're learning and how we're collaboratively, sharing information, from Chris creating the app to whatever, and learning together. And basically, it's like the pandemic's not going to kill the love and the magic and the creativity of improv. So here we are. Yay. Thank you.
Fantastic. I did put the link about pineapple in the chat for those of you guys watching her like, what are these people talking about? You can click on it.
There's also another platform that's online that improvisers have been using, and I'll put that up in the chat also.
Yeah,
Improv.
Thank you. Judy, why don't we head over to you?
Hi, I'm Judy, and I got into improv 6 or 7 years ago. I wanted nobody in my family or any of my friends will ever accuse me of being shy, ever. But getting up on a stage in front of people to do storytelling, I would just hem and haw the whole time. And so as a traveling physical therapist, I was in Hartford, Connecticut. And my biggest shout out goes to CT Improv there, SEATEA Improv, because they're amazing. And I took a beginner's class so that I could work up the guts to get up and do a story at the Mark Twain House. So, which I eventually did thanks to the improv. And so I started 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm 60 now. Well, technically. My birthday was last April 24th, but I was supposed to be in Ireland for the first time ever at Improv Camp Utopia. And then this damn pandemic came along. So I'm not celebrating my 60th birthday till next year when I'm in Ireland. So I gain a few years with this pandemic that way. But, so I started doing, and after I took the introduction class twice because I was down there for 6 months the first time, and then I went back and I'd forgotten everything, so I retook it. And CT was amazing. They're very inclusive. They strive to be inclusive. And while I really enjoyed being there. And what I've come to think of is when I finally full-time retire, I'm just practicing right now. I have to go back to work eventually. When I full-time retire, I want to do a beginner's improv class here in Bangor, Maine, to try and build a small community, not looking for anything big, not trying to open a theater. I want to be able to do a jam at least once a month where we pull from the local universities, maybe get an occasional guest to come and do a weekend class. I'm sure we could talk a few of you guys into coming up and having some lobsters, just to have fun, and have a chance to jam once I'm retired and here full time. So that's kind of what my goal is. And I give a shout out to Sean, because after one of her workshops, she goes, you should teach. And I was like,
and you should, as you should, because
so made my day that day. Made my day. So
well, here's the thing. I'm looking at you and most of the students that I'm now getting that are older than I am with so much life experience, and I'm sitting here going, you need to be teaching. You need to be passing this on. You need to be moving this forward. There is no reason whatsoever to be, as I would like to call it, a perpetual student. Get out there and pass what you know on, and you got skills to pay the bills, girl.
Hey, this perpetual student thing's kind of fun, thanks to Mickey. That is the other piece of all of this. Is I think that while I hate the pandemic in general,
always a perpetual student, but at some point we need to perform, and at some point we need to teach.
True. But as the perpetual student part, what's been nice is I've had opportunities that I never would have had. Odds of me getting to LA to take classes is very slim. And, at long-term classes, maybe a weekend workshop or something. And thanks to Mickey, I've had exposure to people, that have been absolutely amazing. Some of you folks that I probably never would have been able to take a class from. And as somebody who hasn't been doing improv that long, I'll be honest, I didn't know who most of you were. I hope that doesn't hurt any egos, but
That's it.
no.
Oh, God.
I now know. Sean's gone. That's it. I insulted Sean. But no.
All right, I'm back.
But no,
My
so
ego
it's
got that
made a
big.
big difference. And I'm now able to integrate a lot of different styles and into building my own style. And I can't wait to get back onto a real stage to really try to make that carryover from everything I've learned in the past 9 months. So that's where I'm headed right there.
Snaps from the whole panel, Judy. Who else would like to share? Diana?
Hey, good humans. Again, it is a privilege to be here. Oh gosh, so the pandemic, right? That's all, everyone's life changed as a result of the pandemic. The most wonderful thing that has come out of this is definitely the fact that, and I'm stealing this line from the Red Curtain Theater Company who does the Good Theater Festival online, and they say geography is history. And I love that because we are no longer bound by geography. I have gotten the privilege of playing with and seeing people from all over the world. I actually got to do my debut in the UK with my duo Binge Watch. But when this all came down, we were Binge Watch as a duo that I am fortunate enough to be half of with the ever incredible Dan Wilson. Yes, Sean Landry knows Dan. We're all OGs from back in the day in San Francisco with the San Francisco Improv Collective and the early days of the San Francisco Improv Festival. And Dan was on the board of that. But he and I were poised to continue our amazing, we've been very lucky, our festival journey. We had 5 festivals we were going to be appearing at, including New York and oh my goodness, Alaska. Do yourself a favor, and when they reopen, submit and go to the Alaska State Improv Festival created by Eric Caldwell. It is one of the most amazing festivals in the world. There are 3 festivals that are at the top of my list in the real world, and that is one of them. But yeah, I was teaching in San Francisco with an amazing company called Leela. I'm part of the faculty and leadership team there. I was doing, workshops at festivals. I come to improv through the back door of scripted theater. I snuck in when no one was watching. And the idea that I could play anything from A Blade of Grass to Ben Franklin to A Can of Soup really got me excited because I'm a character actor, clearly, in case you hadn't noticed. So the idea that I was unlimited by my age, by my physicality, by my ethnicity, by anything. So if I could portray it, I could have an internal life for it, I could do it. And that's what drew me to improv. So I was out there playing multiple things and doing multiple things and teaching, and this happened. And with Leela, we pivoted within a week. We were doing drop-in classes online and then moving our levels classes online. And I told my very first level 3 class was the first one to come in, and I went, y'all are my first pancake. I have no idea how this is going to go. We will see. And it's been incredible. I now coach groups that started training online, auditioned online, and are performing online and have never performed on a real stage. So for them to go back and trod the boards, as we like to say, it's going to be extraordinary. One of the most amazing things that has come out of this process is getting to coach a group that came together through an initiative through Vintage Improv. So Mickey reached out to me, as Mickey is not afraid to do. She reaches out to everyone, and that's a beautiful thing. I want to take a page from her book. And we had a conversation about this festival that she was planning, and she was like, how can you be a part of this? And we have a workshop called Improv Triage, and I came up with this idea. Wouldn't it be fun to put people together and create troops on the spot? So we did. So we put together a lot of troops. Many of them performed in the Vintage Improv Festival. And I am still coaching one of those troops today. They are called Timeless Improv. The amazing Rick Horner is a member of that group. And these are people from the Vintage Improv Festival community that have not met in person. They've never met in person. And we have been working together since late spring of 2020. And they now perform monthly at Vintage, and they've performed other places. And they are all vintage improvisers who are bringing this incredible skill set. We have people who've been music critics all their life. We have people who are complete audiophiles who are spinning at local stations. We have players who have done every type of improv, and they've come together in this 5-person troupe doing a devised world, which is truly my favorite type of improv to direct. And in that, they know their characters, they know their relationships, they know the history of their world, and then every episode, all the dialogue is improvised. So their particular show is set in a nightclub and lounge. So I won't say any more about that.
Wow.
I've spoken for a long time, and there's some amazing people here that you definitely want to hear from. I just want to say improv online is not what we're used to. And it is a beautiful thing in and of itself. And there's room for everyone on this platform. You don't have to travel. You don't have to drive late at night. You don't have to stay up late necessarily, unless you want to play in the UK. Come play with us.
Drink your
All
own
right.
booze at home.
And you're doing it in your PJs. Like right now I have on, lounge pants. So
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, we haven't heard from you yet, Robert. What would you like to share?
Oh my goodness. Very first thing is that from day one, I have been energized by improvisers. Whenever they gather, wherever they gather, however they gather, this meeting is an energetic thing for me. I've been at it more than half my life. I started in improv dance and somebody said, come see improv comedy. I'd never heard of it. Southern California. And I turned around, and from that point, I've never gone back. Nothing. I came to Atlanta eventually. Did most of my development in San Diego, both in stand-up or in improv comedy and dance. Came to Atlanta expecting there for business, expecting there to be improv here. There was none. And I said, whoa. So I put word out, and the improv magic began to happen because my very first meeting had 19 people who showed up. And I didn't know what to do. I had read Viola's book, and I had 15 games that I'd played in San Diego. And I just said, okay, let's go. And I began to do this. At 74, the last 8 years that I've been retired have been involved in the transition. I've been a very active, very energetic individual my whole life. And improv has been given to me as a gift. I grew up in a hard gang-ridden ghetto community. And my parents got me out of it, basically. And everything is an improv. And the thing that I've done recently, I think this is probably my major message, is that 2 years ago, I quit aging. I'm eldering. It's a much gentler thing to do to myself. I have lost nothing. I thought, I can't run a mile. I don't need to. I've run hundreds of them. And all of that energy has gone into the development and the gatherings of the people already before Zoom. Rebecca Stockley is a dear friend of Tim Orr and Rafe Chase, dear friends, people I've met around the world. Every time there is a gathering. The other thing that comes to me is so this has happened. I lived across the street from the apartment building I'm in, which is a senior residence. It's a 13, 15-story senior residence. And I lived across the street. I got on the list. And while I was on the list, for years, 20 years, I lived across the street. And, I'd wave at people and say, hey, and people would say, oh, do you live there? Oh, no, I don't. I'm not old enough for that. All the way up into my 60s. And then it came time for me to think about this. And it was almost like a voice said, I said, where? I don't know, Arizona, Florida. It's almost like a voice said, look across the street. And I began coming over and sitting on the porch and in the back lot and meeting people and visiting with them and getting more and more excited because I realized that my whole life, I started the improv movement in the southeastern United States. When I came here, there was no improvisation at all. So I was my own little tiny Chicago, and I didn't know anybody. And the Zoom mechanism and Monica Odzarska has been so wonderful in bringing people to us that I never got the chance to meet, hearing the stories. The main thing that has come to me, I came here and I thought, I get to go and I get to bring improvisation to this elder community. And I was looking forward to, I started the improv comedy movement at Georgia Tech and 30 years ago. And I watched it grow. And whoever, I forgot who said it, there's that thing that happens. There's that magic takes place. Oh, yes, I know. People come in and they're whatever, and then see their shoulders drop and you see their heads lift up and you see them begin to breathe and you see them begin to hold the other people with them. And then they begin to teach it because they have to. And not because I know something. It's because there is this thing called the improvisation. And we're sitting here saying, oh, the pandemic. Oh, 50 years or more of terrible plague throughout Europe. And the Commedia dell'arte survived, and the improv survived. The improv started with the Etruscans, and it survived. It survived Vesuvius, and it survived the Roman Empire, and it survived World War I and World War II. And right now, the most beautiful thing for me, there's two parts to this. One is simply that other traditions that I have experience in value newbies, people brand new. When I was 35 years in my martial art, Aikido martial art, the thing was, when you get on the mat, it's your first day, no matter how long you've been at it. When you get on the improv stage, it's the only day. So it's the first day. It's the very first day every time. And now I know people who have been at this for 20, 30 years, 40 years, 15, 10 years, 5 years, or weeks, months, who are brand new. They're newbies at it. They're having to rethink, and for me, the pandemic, the main thing that has happened is that we thought we were together as people. And in many places we were, especially in the improv workshops and communities and stages, very much together. That can, you know what I'm talking about. You get on the stage, this improv, this thing happens, happens. Well, mostly people have thought they were together, but now people have to get outside their personal self in order to touch other people. And that other people now are people from all over. Last night, I spent the whole night watching Monica Ozdarska's improv troupe do a benefit show, all in Polish. And I was fascinated, and they were beautiful because they had become comfortable. As I'm seeing people here talking, they had simply become comfortable in what seems like a distant thing. There's no distance between us. Jeff knows that. There's no distance. I've heard, watched your interview with her. I've seen Sean and Diana online, and of course Mickey. There is no distance between us. I've been called an improv evangelist because I truly believe that improvisation is the next iteration of the development of human consciousness. It's the next evolution of how to be your genuine, real, who you are right now. Vulnerable, warts, ugly, beautiful, whatever you are right now. And to do that in loving collaboration. One generation. And I've watched at Georgia Tech as these young people have come in over the years. Yes, boom. I watch them come in with these big minds, no connection. They're 18, 19, 17 years old. And they never got to connect with people because they were so, and they get in there and they go, ugh. And it happens everywhere. I'll finish with a little story I tell. I call it about what's the little yellow flower that goes to a puffball? Can't think of its name. I just lost it.
Dandelion?
A dandelion. I call it dandelion problem. Dandelion is this little thing. Oh, the seniors. I was talking about the seniors, working with the seniors. Energetic, beautiful, experienced, loving people. And before I tell about that other thing, maybe I'll get to that later. I was expecting to move across the street. I got delayed by 7 months and ended up getting here in the midst of the pandemic. What's happening is I'm getting ready to teach this community improv, and I am creating the relationships one at a time on the elevator, two at a time in a hallway, creating the relationships. so that when I say, hey, let's do this improv thing, those relationships will be there. People who trust me, people who I trust and love dearly. And that's the key to all of this, because that's what I see in each of you. You're not doing this because it's an idea. You're not even doing it because you're doing it because of love. Pure, unadulterated love. Watching other people succeed at what they're doing and watching them grow and change. And that's what this is about. And that's what keeps people like Sheila in it for nearly 40 years, keeps I growing, keeps us. That's what brings the elders in right now. And working with the kids at Georgia Tech, what I found is that they are hungry. Children, and now children for me are up to almost 50. Children, though, the children are hungry for our age and our experience and our gentleness and our willingness to be with them while they learn and change, and our willingness to laugh with them when they're laughing and to cry with them when they cry. That's what we're here about, and that's what's going to bring more and more and more seniors. That's what we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Rick, we haven't heard from you. Would you like to share something?
We heard from him.
Yeah, I went first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we get everybody?
We didn't get Nikki.
Oh, well, let's turn it back over to the Queen.
I love that. I'm muted. I'm not muted. Okay, my thing told me I was muted. So I want to transition to the next part because my question had two parts. And I wanted to start out with Vintage Improv Festival was basically a pipe dream. We just had our third festival and it was virtual, but it sprang from the isolation that many improvisers over 50, specifically those who aren't teachers, but God, I mean, maybe as teachers as well, I don't know, but certainly people that are learning, an isolation, a difficulty in getting performance time, and difficulty in being on a troupe, difficulty of gathering, of getting over the fear of, or the whatever, to reach out and form your own troupe. And so that's what Vintage was about, is to create community. And we did it. It was wonderful. It was in person. And then the pandemic came. And March 1st, I think it was like, okay, I have no idea what a virtual improv festival might be, but that's what we got to do. And so I started going about, like asking people, what does that mean? But what was really exciting about it is how many people 50 and over are on like the forefront of virtual improvisation, because we're all cowboys in the Wild West beginning the 15th of whatever that month was. March, whatever. So everybody had the same amount of experience to begin with. It didn't matter what your age was. You may have more improv experience, but you didn't have more virtual improv experience. This is like so exciting. And we're only like, we're less than a year old. We're still babies. So everybody's in on the ground level. So I'm like all about, talk about being an evangelist, Robert. I am an evangelist as well, because it's like, we can create this, and while the need for total virtual may go away when the pandemic leaves, this is out of the bag. This is Pandora's box has been opened, and we will not go back. I will no longer drive for an hour to get to a class that does not require me to be physically present with someone. There are some that are, but if it doesn't, I'm going to save that 40 minutes and I'm going to find my class online, because there is amazing connection. And I think everybody has spoken to that connection, that when I first started talking to people, they were like, I'm not doing anything in Zoom because, there is no connection. It's not, and I still think there are people that are waiting for the theaters to open. So they've been waiting for a year. So my next question is, there's an incredible what I find in everybody that's managed to live through this pandemic, but in vintage age improvisers, there's like this resilience, and it manifests itself in many, many ways. And what I would like for you all to speak to is your experience as performers, as teachers, as improvisers, to the resilience and the things that you've learned and might share from that experience. Because I want to really encourage people that are afraid to step their foot out onto Zoom, because they've never done it, or they've done it but they think they're stuck on stage, to go to transition beyond that. And I'm hoping that by answering this question, we'll be able to give a whole bunch of reasons why people should just dive in and do it. So
let me jump in with a quick I just had this wonderful insight, because I've talked about March 15th, we were pretty much informed about the pandemic. And by my view, on March 16th, the entire global improv community began working in Zoom and other formats. And it just occurred to me, March 15th is the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March. The world will change thereafter.
Yeah.
You too, Brute?
Sheila, and then Judy after that.
Or maybe Judy first and then me, because I saw her hand before me.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm happy, you guys.
So polite, such a polite group. I love it. I have taken more in the last 8 months than I had in class-wise in probably the whole 6 or 7 years that I've been taking improv classes, just because there's so many available through Vintage. And, at first I was like, well, geez, these people, a lot of them are a lot better than I was. And then there'd be some people who were horrible. I mean, it's just a reality. They weren't really good with Zoom, and they weren't really good, with their improv yet, because they hadn't done a lot. What I have seen in this 9 months is people that were having such a hard time that first month. And it took a month or less. That first month they were having such a hard time. And then it was like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. Oh, yeah, I can pop on and off. Okay, yeah, I know where the mute is now. I know where the stop video is. I know, oh, I can do that. And the skill level of these people that, some of them were rank beginners at the beginning, and they're performing now and doing wonderfully. And there are some who have never been on a real stage, and they are doing amazing. And I have just enjoyed it so much. And I feel like my skill level has gone up tremendously. And I will never give up Zoom improv, because I would prefer a live class if I can get to it. But for the people that I'll probably never be able to take a live class from, I've got Zoom now. And I know most of the instructors I've talked to are going to do a hybrid. They're going to do live classes, and they're going to try and do, most people are telling me the majority of their classes are going to be live, but they're going to reserve times for at least 2 or 3 online classes, so that the opportunity will stay there for people. And all I can say is, if you haven't tried Zoom improv, be brave, give it a shot. I mean, you're in a really safe space. It's really not, it's not bad at all. You're safe in your home in your pajamas. I mean, come on. And for me, I live alone with a cat. Okay. And the cat is okay company, but I can go up to 2 weeks or more without speaking to a live human being. And it's Zoom and Vintage Improv have saved me. Mickey. And I feel like that creativity in my brain is what's keeping me going, and the ability to, and knowing that I have things scheduled while I'm not working, that I can go and do. Oh, I've got class. I can't, not that I haven't missed a few, because I forget what day of the week it is, but and it's really been wonderful, and I've enjoyed it tremendously and met some absolutely amazing people. And you wouldn't think it, but I feel like I have made some great new friends from all over the world. And even somebody that maybe you only took 2 or 3 classes from, 2 or 3 workshops from, there's something about Zoom. There's a personal piece to it that I feel like I've made friends where, like, I go out to LA and damn, Sean's getting a phone call.
Well, no, we're kicking my new roommate out. You staying upstairs.
Oh, yay. I mean, but I've now met people in India and that are wonderful, and all over Great Britain that are wonderful, and the West Coast and all over. And I'm so looking forward to the real world again, because I got places to go and people to hug.
So I want to ask you all to please, when you're talking, talk about the resiliency and the brilliance and the lack of befuddlement and the physical engagement and tenacity of the folks over 50 here. Go ahead, Sean.
No, Sheila.
Sheila,
Sheila,
okay.
My bad.
I keep thinking about Mickey's, the word resilience, and a lot of what Robert was talking about. There is an amazing, and I find specifically working with seniors and 50 and up, we'll say, or even below, they were and are far more willing and more resilient to adapt to whatever comes their way. And some of these women that I teach that are in their 90s, think of what they've been through. Yes, Robert. And it's like, okay, here we are, we're in lockdown. I mean, and they're open. There's this openness, whereas some of my youngest, most darling improvisers, the minute it went to Zoom, oh, I won't do that, and they're gone. I mean, just that close. So I think there is a life-giving fountain of something that comes to those of us who will come to whatever you give us and find a way to inspire and to connect and experiment together. So it's quite a community builder. Someone else was talking about, well, it's a very leveling kind of a thing, because we're all new to this. So we're all open, and in that openness, if you think about the fact that improv is getting into a zone, if you're lucky, with yourself and your partners, and when we're in that altered state, inspiration and creativity appear. And so those of us that are willing to get onto Zoom together, it's like, look, we can do that. And oh, look what I can do with the spot, from the technical to the other kind of a thing. How I think about how often do I put people into a breakout room so they're one-on-one versus onto a gallery view so we're all together. I listen to my students who will say, oh no, let's do that on the gallery view. I want to see everybody. It's like, okay, we'll do that. So we're teaching each other and inspiring each other. And oh my gosh, the connecting with people, the fact that we've all connected. And isn't it interesting? I didn't realize that for most of us, March 15th, or in my case, March 13th, was this cutoff day. And I just, on my own, was like, I will die without improv. It was just like, what? Because, yeah, I think those of us that do improv were a little bit addicted and a little bit, what's the word? It's kind of my everything. I love it. And I think it's a life-giving, life-affirming. I see people's confidence in themselves. The whole thing of, it's a tragedy. I can't tell you how many people come to me who think, oh, you're all so good and you're so clever and you're so creative. And here they are. They're beautiful. They're creative. I feel like I'm going to cry when I say it. It's like somehow, to get that we are all beautiful, creative geniuses in and of our own right, every single one of us. And we couldn't have a story or a scene without your little spice, without, and that is just, I'm just really grateful that, and I think of that silly, the image of, concrete sidewalks with cracks, and up through the crack comes a weed or a flower or something. I feel like, bam, here's the pandemic, but we're finding our cracks and we're connecting, everything, Ali, and my seniors get to come with me. And too bad, you young people that think you're better than this. Good luck, buddy. And I love them, and I hope they'll wake up. And it reminds me of when I was young and how much I thought I knew, and I didn't know nothing. And you know what? Now I know nothing, but I know that I know nothing.
Fantastic. We're going to head over to Sean, and then Carolyn will get you next.
All right. All right. It's very interesting for me listening to everybody. And the passion from all of us and the love of what we do and what we've always loved to do, you know. Not only are we seniors, at least for me, one of the best moments, I think, was seeing people of color my age on Zoom. Seeing people of color doing improvisation. When back in the 90s, I was literally asking family members to improvise. To everybody who's watching this, who is a person of color, who is my age or older, we have nothing to fear but fear. I am so amazing. I love doing this. I don't know if that was Katharine Hepburn. I'm not quite sure where I went with that. But we have nothing to fear but fear itself. For me, who's a person of color who has been doing improv for a very, very long time and been teaching it, doing classes at the nursery, literally this Saturday is my third monologue class, and seeing people who are diverse in London who have a computer, who are so excited and so jazzed because, you know, improv is jazz. That's what I learned. Improv is jazz and vice versa. I have that on a mug from Kansas City. But then again, I always knew that. I want everybody who is over the age of 50, I said it in my class a million times. It's a quote from MASH. Take my advice. Pull down your pants and slide down the ice. You have nothing to fear. Even if you're at home, go into your freezer and get some ice, put it on the floor, and then slide across the floor. The joy in this room right now is making me happier than anything I've ever experienced in 1997. Yeah. Because it was different back then. Am I right, y'all? Am I right, who've been doing improv long? It's different. And now it's not, because the joy is there and everyone is included. And now we are those people. When I was doing this, it was hard to find anybody over 50. I was the oldest person in my second city class in 1996, and I was 30. And I was 30. It is so nice to see us all grown up, all of us being included, all of us not wanting and bringing other people who have never been included into the mix. Everybody who's fucking watching this, and I do swear, and I'm sorry, but that's how I roll. Everybody, this is how I roll, MFs. Here's the thing. You got a computer. You got some Wi-Fi. You got a camera that might not be that good, but you know what? Take your finger and clean it off. Get some earphones, plug them in. If you're fancy, you're able to get up and you're able to friggin' walk around. And maybe every once in a while you can get here and do something really sexy. Make your space work. Have fun with it, y'all. Oh, I'm drinking. Am I not? I don't know. Is that apple juice? I'm not quite sure. Only thing I know is play. Play like you're 30 again. Play like you're 24 again. Enjoy the fuck out of everything.
Playing like you're 7.
Yeah, huh?
Playing like you're 7. Playing like you're 7.
7. Play like you're 6 months old. Roll around in that crib. Roll around in that crib. You got nothing. Don't let anybody peg you at your age. Play the hell you want. And my African American sisters and brothers, don't let them peg you as anything. Don't let them peg you as ghetto. And a 55-year-old playing dominoes, don't let them do that. Play, play, play. And that's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna sit down back on my couch.
Woo!
Carolyn, you get to follow that.
That is one tough act to follow. But I want to say that a lot of times when I've been doing improv, I'm usually the oldest person. This is presume. Okay. And what has happened with Zoom is that I suddenly have peers, age peers, and it's just wonderful. And people, because the pool is spread, I can get to a bigger pool of people. And so I actually get to perform with my age peers. And that encourages me to be younger too. It's a wonderful experience. And I have to say that I have never seen or been in the company of improvisers where there's a larger group of people over 50. And it's all because of Vintage. If Vintage didn't pull in people as it does, then we wouldn't have this group of people to play with. And because you won't find it in your local community. Well, you might. I mean, it depends on how big, but I'm in a smaller community. And so Vintage really deserves a lot of credit for encouraging, welcoming, giving the ability to be with your peers. And I just can't say enough about how important that's been to me and probably to lots and lots of other people. So if you are willing to take a little step into the water, if you never have, Vintage is a great place to start. You're not going to be thrown into a pool of 20-year-olds who will kind of scratch their heads and look at you and wonder, oh, how do I play with this person who I don't have any life experiences? They must be my grandmother or my grandfather. It doesn't happen in Vintage. And then you also learn how to handle 20-year-olds who might hand you that. So it's a win-win.
Awesome. We haven't heard from Jeff in a minute. Let me grab Jeff, then Rick, and then Diana.
All right. Here, am I on? I don't know. Okay. That's kind of old person thing to ask. Paul Sills used to say, who's in your troupe? They'd ask him, how do you decide who's in your troupe? And he said, anyone that walks through the door. And that was my, right from the beginning, that was my credo, I guess is the word, right? So for me, I never rejected anybody that walked in, either to class or even to a company. So I think that's in there right from the beginning, that acceptance thing. The other thing is that I've been, I have a peer group who's been improvising with me since Second City that I still improvise with. And what I do notice is that people stop doing the things that they need to continue doing, like be physical, move, even though it hurts, even though it might hurt now. That's still your link. That's what keeps the lobes kind of integrating with each other. Viola talked about that in her papers at Northwestern. I was very interested in what's happening to the brain and where the the activity that's up here, and the fact that that back thing gets turned off a little bit. So the what's it called, Robert? You'll know, the amygdala, that survival mechanism at
Amygdala.
yeah, there you go. So that kind of gets suppressed when we activate this, and she knew about that, and that's what our connection is to just to keep moving, follow the fear, Dell would say. There's all types of things about that, putting yourself at risk, moving kinesthetically, having your body move, because that's what keeps the blood flow to the brain and allows you to engage. And it's all about engagement. So that's the key. It's just about engagement, and whether you're 80 or you're 90 or you're 10 or 12. I think we all talk to children, I would say, as individuals, and we really do engage them. And we have that sense of playing with them, letting them dictate the game, so to speak. And that's really how we should be integrating with each other all the time. It's just engaging on that level, on that form of connection. I have this fabulous new human being in front of me. What's up? So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's similar to what I was thinking. I want to start off, because I think I'll forget if I don't say it, by mentioning it, the analogy of expensive pee, but it'll make sense when I get to it. So here's where I'm at. I want to do stuff. I want to work with people. I want to create, and I want to take risks. And this is the way that we're doing it right now. My goal has always been to help to create community, to create a place that is nurturing and is run by diverse artists. So, Mickey, when you mentioned the idea of sort of bouncing back, and that idea of like how are we recovering is sort of what I'm thinking. One of the things that I think about is that what makes us all different is actually what binds us together. But I think we hear from certain quadrants that it's what can tear us apart. And I feel like that's sort of like a dangerous choice to have to make in your mind. So what I've been saying to myself, I've really been trying to focus on being grateful, finding gratefulness in small places, trying to figure out how I can be grateful. And it's locked in so many things that it's so fun to discover. And so one of the things I've been saying a lot lately is that I want to give love, and I don't need to wait for somebody to tell me to do that. It doesn't have to be earned. That's just a choice that I make. And so when I think about bouncing back, the thing that I start to think about is we're all extremely fortunate and probably grateful in our own ways for our ability to be here and our ability to communicate in this way and tackling all this new stuff in this new way. I love the idea, and I totally agree with, this is the beginning of, a whole new thing. So we are early adopters. And the thing that's interesting to me is that I feel like because we're talking about inclusion, and the idea of inclusion and diversity is something that I feel like the improv community has been working on for a really long time. And I know this because the improv community has said, we're working on diversity and inclusion. But I don't always see that we're doing that. And so I don't know if this is helpful at all. I hope that it is. In my experiences that I have with people, which I love interacting with a bunch of people where I have no idea what to expect. So I give love to people that have zero experience. I give love to people that have a ton of experience. I give love to people that I can sort of figure out based on my ability to comprehend things. And I love when people aren't a total mystery to me because they're all super interesting. And I feel like they're all valuable. I want to make sure that those people know that. So I try to communicate love as much as I possibly can. And, one of the ways we can do it is on Zoom. You get the little heart thing. You can even put a little heart button on there. Guys, it's so easy. I'm such a fool for love. But I feel like it's so important because I want to be part of the solution. And I'm a white male. And that's already challenging because of that, because of nature, right? But I feel like if I don't even realize that if I don't want to be part of the solution, that I'm actually kind of part of the problem, that's such an important place to start. That I want to take that on and give that love, right? Give that idea love. How can I be part of the solution? Because I don't want people to feel marginalized. I don't want people to feel like they're not being heard. That somebody that's in some position of authority that is a non-white person gets ushered out by and replaced with somebody that's maybe less effective. I've seen these things. Everybody's seen these things. And it's not lovely. That's not lovely. I don't give love to things that where we have a choice and we don't make a choice to really lift each other up. So I say this. I have two thoughts. One is, as grateful as I am that we are all here and that I am able to walk down in my house to the basement. Yes, guys, I'm broadcasting from the basement. And share these things in this way with the community. I would love it if people that don't have access to computers or broadband or phones or a way to do this in some kind of way, if we could figure out how to get help to those people and get more computers and more connection to people that truly need it, because we're feeling it and we have it. I am so much in love with the idea of trying to help people that don't have it, that are actually marginalized because their voices aren't a part of the conversation. So I don't know how that works, but I have love for it. So if somebody wants to reach out to me, this is a commercial for how to figure that out.
Facebook message me. There are grants from Microsoft for people of color who are older, who are disabled. Facebook message me.
Okay.
And stop. You got my phone number. You got my Facebook. You got my emails.
So I'm just going to finish my little thing by saying where expensive P comes in is I feel like if you take too many vitamins, you are giving yourself expensive P. The vitamins will only do so much. It's the same thing with love. It's the same thing with love. You can't have too much love. You'll just have whatever the
Yellow urine.
Yeah, exactly. So I am making a plea for love. Love, you are welcome to come and continue to make us all feel like we are important, like we're helping each other, because I think that's important. And I love this art form, and I love being a part of feeling like that's a conversation that we're trying to have.
Thank you, Ray. We're gonna
Another real quick insight for Mickey is that just before my 50th birthday, a friend of mine got a hold of me to invite me to his 50th birthday as his celebration on the entry to the Council of Elders. Since the beginning of time, at 50, we become members of the Council of Elders just because we live that long.
Speaking of inclusion, the dream of inclusion in terms of age is that the need to have a vintage improv festival community as an explicit community would just fade away. I don't think we're there yet, but that would be ideal. So to that end, we're just welcoming anybody of any age. If you're willing to play with people that are 50 and over, you are so the people we want to be playing with. So that's we include everybody.
Awesome. We're going to hear from Diana, and then Mickey, I'm going to let you close this out.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carla. That was the amazing voice of Carla. Let's give her a little love for
Sorry, I'm hiding off screen because you guys look way better with 9 people on the camera.
Nicole.
Everyone on here has said so many things that have resonated so tremendously with me today. I was delving into a little bit of manifestation work over the course of this week. A gal online was giving a free workshop, and I dove into that. And the big thing that she was talking about was come to this workshop and come to life with letting go of 2 words, and those 2 words being I know. And we've talked a lot about how Zoom Improv has been this beautiful, great leveler. We're all coming from this at the same exact place. And I didn't come to this with I know. I came to this with I have no fucking idea. um, Chris Little, there's the shout out to Ms. Landry. And I'm learning so much. What I'm also learning is how much I need all the generations in my life and in my play to portray them, but also to work with them. My students that are 20, I learned so much from. My students that are 80, I learned so much from. And so one of my biggest hopes is that we will see more of that intergenerational diversity when we come out of this, because hopefully we're all being exposed to one another more through this. And Mickey's invitation for people of all ages to come and be part of the Vintage Improv Festival is such a beautiful role model of inclusion. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank Sheila for something she said earlier about everyone's personal little bit of spice, your special flavor, right? And if any one of these people weren't on this panel wouldn't be the same, because we wouldn't have their delicious super spice, their flavor. I had a director once look at me when I was working on a solo play and say, "You are infinitely fascinating. And you can sit in silence for these 7-12 seconds as you go through these memories, and you will be infinitely fascinating." And I tell all of my students to remember that you are infinitely fascinating and to use your voice. So if you are sitting at home and you are wondering, do I have a place in this? Yes, we are waiting for you, because we need your voice. You are infinitely fucking fascinating. So come play with us. Thank you for letting me be part of this. Improv has changed my life, and I hope I get to be a tiny part of others' improv journeys as it changes theirs.
Yes.
Yes, Queen.
Mickey, why don't you finish this out?
Okay, so first of all, thank you to every single person that's on this panel, and to everyone that's watching or will watch this in support. I would have to say that these are all amazing people that are here, but we're going to multiply that times at least 50 that I know of and could think of and list off. This is such a nice size community of amazing people that share their talents and their facets of beauty with everyone else. And I appreciate it. And I hope that everyone out there that hasn't had a chance to join us will take us all up on the offer to play together. Thank you, Carla, for this opportunity for us to all get together.
Awesome. For those of you joining late, I am the voice from beyond. Thank you to each and every one of you all for being on this wonderful panel tonight. There's a couple comments on the Facebook feed, like, how do I get in on the fun and stuff like that. So feel free to drop some links into the chat and share where people can reach and connect with all of you all. But thank you so much. I feel like this should be the first of a series of chats. I feel like there's so much that we can gain and learn from each other. And I love the spice metaphor. I thought that was absolutely fantastic, because, I'm a fan of the Spice Girls. So everyone, thank you again. We're going to wave goodbye awkwardly. We'll stop that live feed. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next time we get together. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.